Hello, Oracles. Well, we saw Tesla still consolidating today in the stock, but we are getting some great news about all of these deliveries. Great news coming out of Europe. We're going to dive into some of those numbers over there. We got insured vehicle numbers coming out of China as well. We are looking at a record number coming out of China. So lots of great news going on. We're just kind of like in a holding pattern, it seems like, with the stock. So we also have to remember that looking at the way the quarters go usually when it comes to the market is end of the quarter, there's a lot of rebalancing. And that's what we're in right now is the last week, last few days of the quarter, probably just some rebalancing going on in a lot of portfolios. So we'll see how that plays out. Milan, if you get a chance, can you touch on the gaps and your predictions, whether we're not fill those gaps? Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely get into that. I'll bring up the charts in a minute and we will take a look at the gaps that we've got. And I do think we are going to fill them all. It's just a matter of when we're going to fill them. And I'll dive into some of my thoughts on that as well. Willie, hi Tim. I've seen a tidal wave of BS about Tesla in the past few days. Facebook has flooded me with videos about how FSD is fake and how Elon isn't really an engineer. I haven't seen any of that. I'm on Facebook all the time. If you guys aren't on Facebook, you can find me over there, Tim Warner. Simple. You'll see me. I have a few accounts. Just the one with me and my son. We're eating ice cream. That's the profile picture. But yeah, that I have not seen anything about that. I mean, and I'm on Twitter regularly, so I don't know if it's on Twitter. I mean, over on Twitter, we've seen stuff, especially from Dan O'Dowd, about FSD being fake and everything. But I have personally not seen anything like that. Nicholas, when are deliveries going to be announced on which day? Should be this Sunday, April 2nd. Usually it's in the morning. So for me, Eastern time, it's come out between like 9 and noon. It's been later and later recently. I will be on live with Brian over at my Tesla weekend. We're going to be discussing it. I'll be driving up to see my son's soccer game, but Brian will be hosting it all if you guys want to watch there. It's just a matter of, we'll be discussing all sorts of things. We're just awaiting the numbers to be dropping, but it should be Sunday morning sometime before 12 Eastern time. Yeah, Willie, you have to check it out. If you have any examples or anything, let me know. But I mean, you guys also out there watching, if you've seen anything, BS, especially on Facebook or anything about FSD being fake, please share. I have personally not seen anything about it. I don't have as much Tesla following on my Facebook account though, so there may not be as much there. Let's see. We're going to take a look at the numbers here because we had Milan was looking for some info on that. So I'm going to jump into the charts for you guys. Let's do a little share screen. You know what? Let's do it this way. There we go. Make it a little bigger for you. All right. So looking at the gaps that we have here. So overall today, I mean, volume's been relatively low compared to where we were, especially to start the year. I mean, pushing back into January, 200 million shares trading hands regularly. That's like where we were at. And now we're kind of dwindling down. We're back, under 100, today, down to 98. That's very low volume compared to where we were before. RSI is almost dead nuts in the middle at 51.44. Again, for you guys who aren't familiar, the RSI is the relative strength index. This is going to tell us basically, the strength of the stock and whether it's going up or down and whether it's a buy or a sell based upon, volume and where we're at in trading. So anything that's under a 30 for an RSI is typically considered oversold, and we can anticipate some buying pressure coming in. Anything over 70 is typically considered overbought, and we can see some selling pressure possibly coming in. Not guaranteed, but I mean, when you look at the charts here, we hit it, the oversold or overbought range here, kind of hung here for a little bit, and then kind of came right back down into the 40s. Here, we were oversold, super low here. This is where we were buried super low, and then we ended up coming up and out of it. So just some of the things to pay attention to when it comes to the RSI. It's one of those things I look at. So now looking at the gaps here, we did fill that gap today. We had that gap at 186. That gap did get filled intraday. So now that gap is filled, we do have the gaps below us. We have the gap at 146, 133, 122, and 114. There are gaps below 100. I went over those another time. We'll dive into those if we get down, if we start pulling down again. So my thoughts on these gaps getting filled are we have one above us at 262. The timing is really going to be, I think, dictated more by the macro environment. So if we don't have any pressure from the macro, we might run up and fill that 262 before we come down and fill these gaps. Now, don't forget, we filled a lot of gaps recently over the last couple of months that were gaps that were from back right after COVID hit. So 2020, almost, 2 years old, those gaps were, and we still ended up filling them. So looking at where the economy's going, looking at the fact that we may potentially end up hitting, a deeper recession, something that, wasn't really anticipated, we might end up getting ourselves to a point where maybe it's a year or so from now that we actually come down and fill those gaps. Again, nobody knows for sure, but that's kind of my anticipation right now is we are still going to fill those gaps down to 114. Potentially, if it gets really ugly, might fill gaps that go down all the way to $57. Just things I'm paying attention to, keeping on my radar. But as far as the near term goes, we might end up going up. If the Fed is going to pause, as Adam and I had spoken about, typically when the Fed pauses, we end up seeing the market rally. If that happens, we'll go up and fill 262, may end up crossing 313 and breaking that threshold before coming back down when the Fed pivots. When the Fed pivots, looking at the numbers, the Fed pivots typically because of something is going on that requires them to pivot. So maybe we're getting into a recession because every time the Fed has pivoted, we've been in a recession. So is it maybe we're seeing economic data that's pointing to a recession? The Fed wants to pivot to kind of re-stimulate the market, but because it's lagging, it takes a little while for that pivot in the interest rates to take effect. Just like we see when the Fed was going up with interest rates, it takes 6 months or so for those effects to actually hit the economy. Same goes in reverse with a pivot. So we're already sliding in that direction. When the Fed pivots, we're already going in that direction. It's just going to take some time for it to recover. That's just my thoughts on all of that when it comes to timing. So we may end up seeing a volatile 18 to 24 months still ahead of us. It's still a long uphill battle. It's not going to be anywhere easy. Just brace yourselves. Me personally, today I had one of my CDs mature. So I rolled that right into another CD, and the interest rates are continuing to go up. So if you guys are out there and there's high interest, high yield savings accounts that are out there, phenomenal. Some are paying, I think Robinhood is like 4.4%. SoFi is really good too. So the CDs, I was able to get more. So CD, I got 5.1%, and that's just a 1 month. There's some much higher percentages if you want to push it out longer. But with the Fed still raising interest rates, even though we may see a potential pause, I'm going to wait for that confirmation. And then I may roll them into some longer term ones if I can get higher interest rates. But still, 5% returns on this, not knowing where the market's going to swing. We could easily get a swing of 30% in Tesla. And yeah, that would have been a better return, but it's not guaranteed. That 5.1% on that CD is guaranteed, and I can't lose any money. Well, I can if the banks all collapse, which we've been seeing, but hopefully that does not happen. Let's see here. Nicholas, I think 430 to 440 deliveries are reasonable. That's where I'm at. Karav bumped his up to 437, and I'm right at the same. I have 443,000 for production, and I may be low on production. Production might actually be a lot higher than that. But I just increased my production for the year to just a little bit over. I had 2.03 million. I think I'm at 2.06 million now. So I pushed it up a little bit for the year. I just think we're just gonna keep going up. So the stock price may not reflect all of it, but it's gonna be going up. Watch the fundamentals. Raymond, what's the Wall Street consensus on deliveries? That actually I don't know. If anybody in the comments knows that, I have not actually seen it yet. Work has been super busy, so I have not had a chance to. PowerPoint. Oh, here we go. Wall Street upped it to 220K-ish. If anybody can confirm that, that'd be great. Yes, yes, you're right, Raymond. 420K. So if anybody can confirm that, that'd be great. And I have not seen the compiled estimate from Tesla that usually comes out later in the week. So probably Thursday we'll see that. Willie picking up 13 shares this month. Very nice. I'm just over 61 now. Should hit, if the stock price holds as it is, I'll hit my 62nd share next week. Still aiming for 200, but I was talking to one of my buddies over on Twitter. He and I are both pushing for 200, and we keep each other accountable for it. And based upon where I'm at now, unless income goes up significantly, it's going to be hard. I would need the stock price to pull back down. I know people hate me for saying that, but being a little guy, I want to be able to buy more for less. I think the stock is going to be the best stock anybody can buy over the next decade. And so if I could buy more for less, that's what I'm shooting for. Let me see. Marty, did you ever get into ABML explode after I told you about it? You know what? I looked at it and then it fell off my radar. I got super busy. I did see it pop. So no, I apologize. I did not get into that. Actually, do I have it on? Nope, it wasn't even on my watch list over here. It's on my other watch list. Um, yeah, Marty, that one I missed out on. There's always ones out there, so I apologize. That was a good winner if that took off. I should have paid attention more to that. Just life and work and everything getting super busy. Um, Margins, yeah. Where do you think we're going to come in for margins? I think we're going to end up coming in. We'll be over 20% for sure. I'm just wondering if we're going to end up hitting 24 or 25% this quarter with all the price cuts and everything. And the factory ramp is now, most of those costs are worked out of it, especially with Berlin hitting 5,000 per week. Most of that should be worked out, but I'm sure the margins are going to be, I think margins will get better and better as the year goes on. Very similar to when we saw Shanghai ramping. It took a massive margin hit company wide as they started ramp. But as they were ramping up, the margins just went up and up and up. And then we ended up clearing 30%. Think we're going to be in that same situation, slightly different this time because before we were also going up on vehicle prices. Now we're coming down on prices. But again, Tesla knows their finances better than any of us. They know how to run their books. So I'm not going to argue with them on how they're doing it. It's just a matter of, where is Wall Street going to see it and how are they going to feel about it? Tesla Drew suggests we focus on net margin instead of gross margin. And that's true. That was actually something that they had talked about as well. Instead of looking at, because Tesla right now, they also said that they're looking at profits and gross margin company wide. And that's really the focus as well. Vehicle margins may take a hit, but if the profitability is still going up on the company, you're paying your bills with the bottom line profits and the net income. You're not paying your bills with the profits you make from your vehicles. So if the profits from the vehicles come down, but they've also cut expenses significantly, which means that they have more net income at the bottom line, that is a massive positive for the company because when they get to a point where they can then push prices back up or they've cut costs even more for production, that means that's even more money going to the bottom line and they'll have more consumers who can buy it. So if they can increase sales and increase net income while coming down on prices, that's a massive goal to achieve. Yeah, Nicholas, I believe the same thing. I also believe that we could hit market bottom in 12 to 18 months as the big crash most likely comes after the pivot. I totally agree with that. After seeing the numbers and charts with Adam, I feel the same way. I thought maybe that 101 was the bottom, but I think that might have just been the touch of the bottom before we get to the real ugly points. PowerPoint. If we go to $57, we will be in a Great Depression too. That's actually something I had mentioned to Open Skies over on Twitter. With the way the economy is going, looking at how basically every 10 years we go through a cycle of a bear market, recession, kind of flushing things out, it would make sense that every 100 years we hit a big depression. Thinking about you go back 100 years, the late 20s, we hit that depression. It's not an exact science. So just like this time, it wasn't exactly 10 years between the recessions. So we had it in '08 and '09, and it was about, when we hit COVID and then we came out and, if we're going to consider this one to be the next one, it's about 14 years before we got to the next one. So it's not exact, but it's around that time frame. So theoretically, by that principle alone, we would be due for a depression, which could be massive. And looking at how much we have to thin this out, looking at how the Fed, if they pivot, they want to pivot and take 2 to 3 years to actually come down on the interest rates to let everything flush out. That could lead to something like a depression. So, just something I'm monitoring and paying attention to. Again, I don't hope that happens. I think that's ugly. A recession, I think, is not to say it's a good thing, but I think it's helpful and necessary to kind of flush things out of the market. So it sucks to go through, but it's not a terrible thing. Depression could be rough. Obviously, a lot of people losing jobs, huge change of how we do things and live our lives. So I don't know if the $57 would be that, or if there's like gaps that go down to $22. So I think at that point we could consider it the Great Depression, but I don't know. We will monitor and see how we go. Let's see. Cassidy, I just started investing on Tesla and my average is 187. Do you think it's a good average? I'm definitely adding more as it goes down. Um, yeah. So for me, mine is 226. I have been buying all the way down. I'm saving up a huge chunk of cash. It's just more and more constantly just waiting to see, I am anticipating those gaps to get filled. At that point, I will dump more money in. So, I mean, the way I always say to everybody is everybody's got to do their own due diligence and research. You've got to come up with your own investing strategy. What are the questions I ask are what is your thesis on the stock? How long do you plan on holding it for? What do you think the stock price will be over that time frame? If you and then take a look at your average cost basis, do you think that's going to be a good return? So, for instance, if you think the stock price is going to be $2,000 in 2030 and that's when you plan on holding it till, do you think, $187 to 2000 is a good return on your investment? It's usually what I ask. And, you've just got to answer those questions for yourself. And if you say, yes, it's a good investment, then hold on to it. And then always just monitor the fundamentals. As long as the fundamentals hold and we keep going in that direction, you should be perfectly fine. If you feel like the fundamentals are wavering for whatever reason, you have to make the decisions on your own as to whether you want to sell it or not. Yep, William, my plan is to hold and buy Tesla whenever I have money at any price and hold till 2030 minimum. I'm right there with you. That's why I've got my two separate strategies. I've got my buy every single day and then hold some cash to buy when we dip lower. I feel the same way. Yeah, Raymond, that's great. He started at 300, average is now 250. I started around, I think mine was around 276, and I'm down to 226 now. Thank you, Karav. Yep. So 420 is the consensus, which, of course, 420. How could you have a more ironic number ever? Never. So maybe we'll end up coming in at 420,000 deliveries and 469,000 for production. Karav, I'm at 431,000. Fremont Model 3 and S and X seem to have some lower production, therefore lower supply. I believe it might be Highland related. That'd be awesome. I would love to maybe on the Q1 earnings call get some info on this Highland thing because I haven't heard much about it. Obviously, beginning of the year, we heard a lot of rumors about Project Highland, and then it kind of went away after Investor Day because they really didn't mention it. They mentioned next gen, and we're like, well, is next gen Project Highland? But doesn't make sense because next gen seems like a whole different platform, whereas Project Highland seems like it's an upgrade for the Model 3 and kind of giving it that refresh. So maybe we'll hear about that at Q1 earnings. That'd be awesome. Karav, I have auto margin X credit at 22. That makes sense. I think with the credits, I've got them at 24, 25. Um, yeah, operating margin of 14.79% would still be stellar. Um, Thinking about the fact that operating margins at 14.79% when even the best legacy auto has vehicle margins at 14.79% is mind blowing. Yeah, great point. PowerPoint Paladin. If we can show price cuts haven't killed margin, we may get some major price boosts. I totally agree because that there would show how I don't say recession proof, but recession resistant Tesla will be because they have that pricing power to flex. So if they've come down on prices significantly and still have strong margins, that will tell the market that even if we get into a deeper recession and sales become tougher because the automotive market overall is going to take a hit, Tesla still has that power to come out and sell more vehicles than anyone else. Oh, there you go, Willie. 88-year cycle. They teach it in economics. So 88 years. So we are then overdue, actually, if it's 88 years. Thank you. I did not know that. I think I took macroeconomics in college and definitely never went to class. It was so dry and boring. Of course, now doing what I'm doing, I really wish I actually paid attention. I've actually contemplated looking at some colleges and maybe going back just to learn, learn some things that I don't know. Um, just don't know about that. But thank you for teaching that. I appreciate that. Yep, the biggest fortunes in history were made during the last depression. Just like they say, fortunes are born during bear markets. When are the deepest bear markets? During recessions. When are the deepest bear markets? During depressions. If you are prepared, you will become wealthy. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed. There's a lot of different factors at play, lots of different things that are going on out there. But if you take a look at history, it repeats itself regularly. Regardless of what happens and what causes it and triggers all of these things, we are going to go through the same times. So if you've got stockpiles of cash and you are ready, some people say real estate, but think about how Tesla has prepared for this recession. They've gotten themselves out of debt, they have massive cash flow coming in, and a giant stockpile of cash. They are primed and ready to go. If we get into a point where there's a lot of companies out there that are starting to go under, maybe there's lithium companies, maybe there's robotic companies, whatever, if there's companies out there that Tesla is interested in buying and they get through some rough economic times, the prices on those are very cheap. Think about when we see a lot of companies buying out other companies. Typically it happens during bear markets and recessions because those companies who buy them have been primed with stockpiles of cash, and these other companies are at prime and right prices to buy at. So from an investor standpoint, same thing. These companies are going to be out there super cheap. Tesla will end up being super cheap. Elon said himself, you go into a recession, things that can happen on an economic level with the stock price, it's going to be very irrational. Maybe we see the stock price come under $100, despite the fact that Tesla's blowing everyone out of the water. It's possible. And would you not want to buy the stock for under $100? I know I would. Let me see. Raymond, considering inflation at 6% and savings interest at 4%, since Tesla don't pay dividend, the stock price has to rise by 10% per year just to break even. That's true. But as we've seen in the past, even if the stock comes down, like last year we saw obviously the massive hit, when you look at the long term, it's even if the stock price doesn't go up by 10%, eventually, of inflation by what the Fed is trying to do, inflation should come down and that will end up balancing itself out. So over the course of 10 years, it'll be a net gain. So if you invest during those times where the stock isn't going up, eventually it will catch up and go back up and make up for those losses and then not 10% gain. And that's why they say cash is king during these times, because that cash can go into, assets that are well below value and you can get them on massive deals and sales. Willie, I just rewatched the Roadster unveiling. He said it would be available in 2020. I know COVID messed it up, but why can't we hand make a few hundred by now? They did actually discuss that at Investor Day. I think it was Investor Day, either Investor Day or an earnings call. But Elon did. They did mention it and say that it's just not a priority right now. They are working on it. Oh, maybe it was Franz who was talking about it. It's not a priority right now. They are working on it. They're focused on it, but there's so many other things that are more important to the company mission that's going on. So obviously Cybertruck is the next big one that's going on. They want to focus on energy. The next generation vehicle is going to be big, robo taxis and FSD. There's just so many other things that are going on that take priority over the Roadster that It's just going to take some time. That's all. So I would say maybe 2025 or 2026 we'll see it. I wouldn't hold my breath on that though. And it's going to be such a limited vehicle to sell to put effort into it when they really need to be putting effort into just driving as many sales as they can right now. If you guys remember the Valley of Death, it's where ICE vehicle sales are dropping off as EV adoption takes off. As EV adoption takes off, and what ends up happening is there's going to be a massive gap that needs to get filled by production of EVs. Tesla right now obviously is dominating when it comes to production of EVs. So whoever can produce the most is going to win. And Tesla wants to focus on any vehicles that they can mass produce. That's obviously the Model Y that they're focusing on now, the Model 3, and then that next gen vehicle, which is most likely the compact car. Those are the major focuses. Oh, Josh, how much do you think other automakers started to really panic once Ford's financials came out? Didn't realize how much dealerships were hurting their business. I think that they recognized it. I mean, they're not stupid. We all saw this years ago. The whole dealership model is it's old, it's slow, it's inefficient, and it's costly. I mean, it's not to say that they're faking numbers, but when they report their sales, they're reporting the sales based upon what the dealerships have purchased from them. And they have contracts with the dealerships to buy X number of vehicles. So they almost know how many vehicles they're going to be selling every single year. Just because the dealerships have purchased it and Ford can come out and say, hey, we delivered 2 million vehicles, doesn't mean they actually delivered 2 million vehicles to consumers. They've delivered 2 million vehicles to dealerships. It's then up to the dealerships to move those vehicles to the consumer. Obviously, having the middleman there, so many different things go on. So, did they actually sell these vehicles or not? It doesn't always work out that way. With Tesla not having actual dealerships, we can see what they have for inventory and then we can see what's sold. It's pretty clear and cut. We see that. So, I have a feeling Legacy Auto knew all of this. They knew what's going on. They see it. It's just something they couldn't disclose openly to people because if they do that, then obviously people are going to be like, well, what the hell? Why do we want to invest in your company? They lose investors because they see that this is going to be a massive hurdle. We see this, it's now coming to light, and it's going to be interesting to see how they overcome these challenges. Um, Woo! Karav. Everybody celebrate in the chat. Europe inventory listings have just gone below 2,000 from a peak of 4,600. That's pretty awesome. It's like from 4,680 to 2,170. That's funny. That's great though. And for those of you guys who did not see, they've got the deal that's going on, 10,000 free miles of supercharging, just like they did here in the US. So that's a big deal, and I'm sure that's helping move inventory significantly. Um, there definitely seem to be a fleet sales in Europe. Yeah, that was one of the big things too that people seem to forget. Hertz and lots of other fleets that are out there. If Tesla's right now focusing on getting all the vehicles produced out to consumers who are buying them, they're not focused on the fleets as much. And then these fleets are out there. Tesla puts out some sort of special, and the fleet companies are like, hey, you know what? That's a great deal. We'll scoop up all of these that you have in inventory because we want them right now. Bang, massive sales going from inventory into fleets, and that's it. So, Tesla knows these things. They're working it all out just right. Josh, with Tesla's plan of flattening the wave of production versus deliveries, I perceive the deliveries to be very close to production numbers this quarter. Something I've done with the math on this, and it's one of the things I want to pay attention to going forward, is are the delivery numbers for the quarter going to equal the production numbers for the prior quarter? Because as we are continuing to ramp when it comes to production, the deliveries are going to be going up, but they can't deliver as fast because there's usually about a week buffer time between the time a vehicle is produced until the time it's actually delivered. If that is the case, then we're obviously going to always see that gap between production and deliveries because production is going to be sped up and deliveries just haven't had a chance to catch up to that. So I really want to see if we're going to end up in that situation where we see that. So if we're going to end up seeing 439,000 deliveries this quarter because that's what we saw for production last quarter. Just something I'm going to pay attention to moving forward. But I think those are the gaps that we're going to end up seeing just because they're producing significantly faster than they can deliver. Yeah, Kurov, Tesla kind of said, screw flattening the wave this quarter. Just shove it out, man. Just shove them out there. Yeah, Willie, I love dips too. 7 layer dips, all of it. Tesla dips. Bring it on. Cybertruck is tailor made for police departments. It really is. Like, you want to go run into the woods on your quad? Have at it. I'll hunt you down with my Cybertruck. Oh, you're in a boat? It's a boat too. My Cybertruck will float in that water and go and get you. That's fun. That's brilliant. Marty Ford will bankrupt itself to get rid of dealerships, debt unions, and pension liabilities. So, personally, I think, and I hope, of all the legacy automotive makers, I think Ford is going to do the best, and I actually hope that they do the best. Not that I ever have it out for anyone else, but Jim Farley is a reasonable guy. He understands and respects what Elon and Tesla are doing. They've already been wise. They have not. They're the only other company who has not gone bankrupt as far as legacy automotive companies go. And when it comes to them, they've already recognized that, you know what? They know what their customer base is. They're staying true to that customer base. They're focusing their business on that. It's a very wise strategy. And I think that's one of the reasons they're going to get through this better than anybody else as far as the legacy OEMs go. Nicholas, is it naive to think I can retire at the age of 35 just having 500 shares at the moment by the age of 23? First off, Nicholas, awesome job. I wish when I was your age, I had known this much about investing. I think it's easier now, not to make excuses, but back when I was 23, there was no apps that I can go buy stock on. I think E Trade may have just come out because that was 20 years ago. So I think E Trade and maybe TD Ameritrade that I'm on now were out there, but I had to pay. I didn't have the kind of money I do now. And back then it was like 10 or $12 just to make a trade. So if I wanted to buy one share of Tesla right now at $189, it was going to cost me $200 just to buy one share. And then if I wanted to sell it, it was another. So swing trading, if I knew more about just a long-term investing, because back then I was thinking gambling, I was thinking more about that short-term stuff. Long-term may not have been bad. If I was, wiser back then, would have definitely been good for me to get into, but kudos to you for doing this. And I think that in the next 12 years, again, nothing is guaranteed. This is not financial advice, but based upon what I am seeing, I think 500 shares is going to be split at least two more times, at least 2 or 3 to 1 each. And if the stock price at that point is going to be, you know, pre-split $3,000, figure 3,000 times 500. You do the math on that. If that's enough for you to retire on, by all means do it. And then you just have to figure out yourself how you plan on utilizing that money to retire on. There's a lot of different strategies that are out there. If they do dividends, that would be awesome. Elon has said they're not going to, but they did mention it at Investor Day. So maybe it is on the table. You could do options with it, as some people do. Some people just end up selling a little bit. Some people put it into other accounts for high dividends. Lots of options at that point. There's a long time between now and then, but if you feel comfortable with it, I have a feeling that will be very well worth it. Let's see. Ooh, did you see the rear wheel steering video that came out yesterday from the Cybertruck? No, I didn't see that. I saw the one that they had when it was driving around the parking lot. That was awesome, but I did not see the one from yesterday. I will have to go find that. Raymond, I love your comments, dude. When will Tesla production rate exceed reproduction rate of rabbits? 2027. Mark my word. 2027, Tesla will outproduce rabbits. Sunshi, do total sales numbers come out this Sunday? Yes. Yeah, we will get delivery and production numbers. Yep, Willie, exactly. 500 shares will split at least a few times. Absolutely. Scott Trade at 7. I forgot about Scott Trade. Wow. Yeah, I remember like E Trade, I think was like $9. And I think that's why I ended up going with them because they were $9. And I don't know if you guys remember anybody out there who's been investing for a while. I want to say man, when was it? Had to be early to mid 2000s, maybe the 2004 to 2008 range. Right before Apple dropped the iPhone, actually, there was a company, Zybernaut, and my dad got me into that. It was a penny stock. They had the tech that Apple was going to be using for all of their iPhones. So my dad was newer to investing as well. We were both looking at it. I actually initially got in and I made $2,000 on a very small investment. Things shot up like crazy. Again, not knowing a lot about the market, I ended up selling out, made a bit of a profit, but held on to the rest because I'm like, I want to ride this out because it's just going to take off. Then we learned how the big boys play, and the big boys went out there and squashed Zybernaut, and they don't exist anymore, pushed them right out of existence so that they could take all the technology and use it for themselves. So that's what ended up happening. But if you guys remember Zybernaut, please let me know because I made money and then lost money, and I basically broke even on that. Uh, I need a beer. So if you guys who don't know, I've been working out. I am now down. I weigh myself every day, but I record it every week. So I'm down to 195. So I'm down 9 pounds from when I started a month ago. So I'm doing well. I'm trying to get back to my race weight. But when I am working out and really trying to do this, I typically don't drink. And when I'm really focusing on racing and stuff, I don't drink much. And when I do, so I'm a super cheap date. Like especially when I run a race, dehydrated, haven't drank in a while, I get through half of the beer that they give us at the end, and I'm hammered. It's awesome. But nah, I'm not against drinking. I'm just not a. I just don't do it all the time. Just not a big drinker. Raymond, my first trade was over the phone with a broker. I'm just happy it was not a rotary phone. That's awesome. Oh man, yeah, those days, man, going back to the early 90s before the internet really came out, that's how you did it. Oh, let me see. Let's see, Josh. I root for made in USA autos and never will never buy foreign. Nothing against them, but I see it as supporting America and our economy. Tesla just made a no brainer for me. I totally agree with that. My question to you is like a Honda. Actually, a lot of the automotive makers now, just because they're based in another country, they do have a lot of vehicles that are made here in the U.S. My company, we sell steel products, and steel is based out of Germany, but they do manufacture a lot of the stuff in Virginia Beach here in the U.S. So when it comes to that aspect, how do you feel about that itself? If it's made in the U.S. from a foreign company, still on board with that because it's still being made by American hands. And I know sometimes it's just assembled in the U.S. and all that BS, but again, I agree with you totally. Tesla makes it a no-brainer. Everything is U.S., U.S., U.S. Simple. Um, and I'm a more of a fan of that than the legacy automotive makers who have all sorts of sketchy stuff that go on with it as well. Marty, how practical is the Cybertruck for work truck? I work in construction. Can you put a ladder rack on it? That's one of the big questions I have. Again, being in the field that I'm in construction, rental, and retail, and I'm curious as to get some feedback from my customers. Obviously, I know it's not going to happen for a while, but I want to know the feedback from them as far as it goes, on a job site. And functionality is clearly the most important thing. We know that over in SoCal, the Cybertruck, they're buying it over there for lifestyle purposes. So it's going to do extremely well there. But from the functionality standpoint, Elon says it's going to be great. I'm not going to doubt him. However, I want to see these guys who are actually in the field working, using it, and giving true feedback. So once I start seeing that from my customers, and I'm sure we'll hear about it from plenty of other places as well, I'll definitely share with you guys all of that feedback. Sounds like it's going to be very versatile on a job site. I just want to hear it and see it for myself to find out for sure. So it sounds like it should be a very versatile work truck. We'll see. Nicholas, do you model FSD in your Tesla valuation as a monthly subscription or a single buying price? For me, I do it as a subscription because I don't factor a lot of that in right now. Most of my FSD revenue does not kick in till 2025, 2026, because I feel at that point, that's when we're going to get regulatory approval for level 5 autonomy. That's when we're really going to see the revenues. And at that point, it will be subscription based. You will not be able to buy it. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think you're going to be able to buy it as a lump package like they do now. So everything I have is all subscription based. Oh yeah, aftermarket products for Cybertruck is going to be insane. Like the Cyberlander, oh man. Like if it weren't for the fact that I know that they're coming out with a Cybervan, I was all over the Cybertruck and the Cyberlander. But the Cybervan is going to take precedence over that, but that is hot. And there's going to be so many aftermarket things coming for the Cybertruck. It's going to be bonkers. So anybody out there, if you're a manufacturer of any sort for stuff like that, I would hop on that because you are going to make a fortune. PowerPoint Paladin. I've lost thousands of upside not wanting to call my broker. Then again, I've missed out on thousands of downside because I didn't want to call my broker. It's a double edged sword. That's true. Because, as we've seen, sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. And if you don't want to have to call your broker, then you're doing nothing. And if you hold long, then you could do well. Let's see. Yeah, Makis are made in Mexico but get US tax breaks. I don't really get that. It's because it's North American made. And the reason they had to do it that way is because of the fact that they wanted to favor their legacy friends in the countries where they have them in Canada and Mexico with their factories. So obviously, Tesla's going to take full advantage of that. They're going to get cheaper labor in Mexico, and they're still going to get the EV tax credit benefits from the US. So thanks for playing the game. Ooh, Willie. I'm a fence builder and looked into it. Tesla is making all the accessories in-house. Yep. That's interesting. Hmm, I wonder if they're going to be doing. I mean, there's got to be aftermarket stuff too. I just wonder how that's going to work. I plan to pull my material on a trailer so Cybertruck stays shiny. Yeah, and the other questions that I have, my ex-in-laws owned an Avalanche, and the setup for the Cybertruck is very similar to that, where it's not a true truck bed. It's yeah, the options for a true truck bed. So that's the functionality I want to see and how it goes as well. So that'll be important to me to find out. Marty, I had bought E Trade back when it first came out. Thought it was the future. I mean, it was the future, but E Trade didn't grab a hold of it as well as they could have to really drive it forward as the future. And then other companies just swallowed them up. Very similar to what we see, um, like Instagram. Snapchat came out and then Instagram came out. I was like, well, we're going to do a Snapchat version. And Snapchat's like, okay, I mean, not that they're doing bad, but you have bigger companies who just say, hey, that's a good product. We're just going to do the same thing and put you out of business. David, what do you think Tesla delivery numbers are going to be? I think 437,000. That's where I'm at right now. Marty, I think Vegas would be the first place that Tesla can legally have robotaxis. Actually, it's possible because they're going to end up using them in the tunnels there. So I think you're right with that. I think the other places they're going to use them are going to be at airports, could be stadiums for sporting events. I think they're going to be mostly parking lot driven because this is another reason Elon was focusing on parking assist and the smart park, because by having the smart park focused on, they can start doing that. Then people are already getting more comfortable in cities like San Francisco where they've got Cruise and Waymo, and you've got to change the whole public perception of this. People are like, "Ooh, I'm in a car that's driving itself, but there's no driver." So a lot of people are tendencies to not want to get into that. They don't really trust it. So you have to build up the public trust in this technology. So doing it in the tunnels down in Vegas, doing it in those cities, doing it in parking lots where people are like, hey, I drove me around a parking lot. What can it do on the road? That I think is going to be kind of like that toe in the water and that icebreaker to get people more familiar with it. As the masses get more familiar with it and it becomes commonplace, then we're going to end up seeing it really take over on the roads. Nicholas, yeah, we were just talking about this. Has there been any news on the roads over the last few months? So excited to see the stats and final look. I'm thinking we got at least 2 or 3 more years before that really gets launched, unfortunately. They just have so many other focuses right now. So their next focus is up from the vehicle standpoint, not even FSD or energy or Optimus. Their focuses right now are going to be Model Y this year, getting themselves ramped up to be best-selling vehicle. Obviously, getting Cybertruck out this year, then focusing on that ramp next year. The following year in 2025, their big focus is going to be the next gen platform between robo taxis and the compact car. After that, I think they're going to end up, maybe we'll end up seeing the Roadster after that. Um, as Franz said, they are working on it, but I think realistically, the launch for the Roadster is going to be 2025 or 2026. Yeah, the hand building of the Roadster, I don't even know. I mean, just thinking, not to say I don't agree with you. I mean, I would love to see it. Just knowing how Tesla operates, though, especially when it comes to just the efficiency standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it that way. I mean, I know that full well that they're only going to be building not a lot. They're not going to build a lot of them. So maybe put it out there, just get a couple going. But is that really going to make the big dent? That would almost be like the semi where they're going to sell off, the pre-production ones. Is that what they want to do with the Roadster? Or do they want to really give it a true focus and get it out there properly? That I don't know. Starship launch, I thought, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Last I heard, Elon said June is when we should be start seeing Starship launching. So that was what I heard last. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I had heard. Ooh, Sunchi. I live in the Vegas area. Right now, they are working on building out the underground tunnel so that EVs can drop you off at a number of different stops, but nothing going to and from the airport. Yeah, and I know that that was actually one of the things that they were working on is building tunnels to the airport. But it's good to see that they are expanding this. So maybe that is what they end up doing. Maybe they use it at the airport or just to transport people around the airport for parking lots and stuff. And then maybe they will, especially in Vegas, end up connecting the tunnels there. And those robo taxis will not only take people around the parking lots, but to their destinations as well, which we would be pretty awesome. Josh, I've had a Cybertruck on order since 2020, and actually getting it seems like it is a dream. Once the first delivery happens, it will all turn real, and then the excitement will be real. Absolutely, that's what I'm waiting for as well. That first delivery is gonna be like, all right, this is now real. Tesla Q has been having their fun saying it's never coming, it's never going to be real, it's never happening. It's going to happen. But obviously, I'm still a believer when I see it type of guy. So once I see those first deliveries actually happen and we see true production happening, then I'm going to be even happier. And mine has been on order since when I put mine on order, late 2020. I think December of 2020 is when I put mine on order. I'm like 1.4 million in line. Mm. We need the Roadster to beat the Lucid Sapphire in a race. Dude, that Roadster is going to be boss. Like, thinking about how fast the Plaid is, what they can do with the Roadster, I don't even know. Willie, I could build 3,000 Roadsters by hand in 6 years. Maybe you should offer it up to Elon, see what he says. How cool would a PTO in the front or rear of a Cybertruck be for snow blowing, rototilling? That would be awesome. I don't know. I mean, just the torque that you have in that vehicle is going to be phenomenal. So you'd be able to operate so many different things. Really curious as to how they're going to go with that. That would be wild, though. Will heat pumps ever become a big business of Tesla one day, as they talked about the importance of it at Investor Day? I think it's going to be huge. How big of a business it's going to be, I don't know. But seeing as Elon's already alluded to having his own little towns being built, thinking about going back to the old Ford days, old factory days, typically you would have a factory and then a town literally built around that factory for factory workers. I think Elon is basically going in the same direction, but these little towns that he's going to be building are going to be self sustaining towns. It's going to be ridiculous. I've been watching Avengers recently, thinking about Stark Tower and the tower itself was a self-sustaining tower. That's what Elon is basically going to be doing in a town form. We're going to have the Gigafactory, and the entire town around it is going to be self sustaining off the grid. I have a feeling this is what we're going to be seeing, and heat pumps will definitely be playing a major role in that. I just don't know where it's going to fall when it comes to the actual revenue stream coming in, but I think it's going to play a very vital role in the development of everything moving forward. Tesla Q also thought Shanghai would be just a mud field. Well, I mean, it was for a very short time until they built it. And there it is. Hanif, oh, great question. Where would you go for your first road trip when you get your cyber van? Banff. Not even gonna hesitate. That's the first place I'm going to go, depending on the time of year I get it. But if those of you guys who have been around with me for a while, you know that this picture here was my backdrop for the longest time. That's Moraine Lake up in Banff. Absolutely gorgeous. I have never been there. I want to go there and I want to do a live stream and recordings of videos with that as my true actual backdrop. Um, so that is my goal, and that will be the first place I go when I get my cyber van. Although I think from that location, I can't drive it to there. So I'll have to end up hiking up there, but I will be visiting there. And I know several of you live in that area. So when I'm on my trip, when I get my cyber van, and I'll absolutely let you guys know when I'm traveling the country, I'll probably go to Mexico, I'll go to Canada, I'm gonna go all over the places I can drive to, and I will absolutely meet up with any one of you guys if you want to. We'll hang out, grab some food, grab some drinks, we'll have a good time. Speculation is Cybertruck initially would be over 100,000 before it ramps and a lower cost two motor version coming up. That was one of the big questions we had before, and you guys can let me know what you think. I figured they would do the same thing. I figured they're going to be coming out with a quad motor and a plaid version, and those were going to be the first ones that they put out just because they're higher end and they'd want to keep the margins higher. However, looking at us potentially getting into a deeper recession, maybe they want to go with volume. Maybe they go with the dual motor first and sell those initially off the bat. Again, I don't know. I mean, obviously, as Elon said, it's going to be a slow ramp to start. So I'm not expecting any big numbers this year. Maybe 10 to 20,000 are going to come out this year. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But if that's what they're going to be hitting, what do they start with? I think the Rams are going to be fine. I think eventually they're going to get to 250,000 per year. I think that's what they're going to end up getting to. Maybe more. I could be wrong, but I think 250,000 per year makes sense for them, but probably won't hit that number until 2025, at least as far as a run rate goes. Uh, so yeah, I think 2026 is when I'm actually going to get mine, maybe if I'm lucky. But I think timing wise, just because of how far I am on the list down with the Cybertruck, they'll come out with the Cyber van first, and I'll probably end up getting that before I get the Cybertruck, and I'll just forego the Cybertruck, or I'll get it and I'll sell it to somebody else. Who knows? We know the roadster for the next Night Rider. I don't know. You can use the Cybertruck. Let's go big. The Cybertruck looks like it's got that bar. We could totally go with a Cybertruck Night Rider. How often can you get the $7,500 tax credit in 2019? I got a $3,750 credit from my Model 3. You've got to check with your accountant for sure. Check with the way the plan works. From what I have been hearing, you have to actually be owing $7,500 in taxes to be able to get that credit back. So if you don't get the full 7,500, you can't get that back entirely. You'd get a portion of it. So that is from what I have heard and how it breaks down. So not everybody will end up getting that full 7,500. So I guess if you owe, let's say, $15,000 in taxes and you've got two Teslas that you bought, you can theoretically get $7,500 for both of them, as far as I know. Just double check all the fine print, check with your accountant as well. But that's what I gather from that information. You're right, Marty. This self-sustaining town is prep for the Mars colony. Yep, that's my thoughts. You have to remember Elon in the back of his mind, and even though he's been saying, his focus is on Twitter right now because, as he stated earlier, you know, not to say he's not focused on Mars, but you can't build a colony on Mars if civilization crumbles here on Earth. So that is what his entire focus is. His whole focus is getting humans to be a multi-planetary species. If that's what he's focused on, he wants to make sure that we are a good civilization here on Earth, and then how can we make that civilization happen on another planet? And Mars, obviously being that next planet, that's what he's focused on. I mean, it's brilliant on a scope that so many people cannot even fathom. And just getting glimpses of it is enough for me to understand just the grand scope of what he's looking at. Oh, Darren, nice. Sister just purchased a Model 3 Performance, gave me a short drive in it. Wow. My buddy who actually got me into Tesla has a Performance Model 3, and he loves like he'll go to the track and he'll race, Formula One cars and stuff. So he loves that kind of thing. And man, he said that performance is like being on a racetrack with one of those cars. It's nuts. Nicholas, why did you order a Cybertruck if you could have put 50K into Tesla stock by the time of 2020? Well, I mean, the putting a deposit down on the Cybertruck is only $100. So, I mean, $100 is nothing. Um, so by the time I actually get my Cybertruck and have to put out the money for it, however much it's going to be, um, that to me is I'll have that money by then. So that's the way I look at it from my standpoint. So yeah, it was only $100 for a deposit. So it's not like I threw $50,000 on the Cybertruck. I didn't have that kind of money then. Karav, I'm addicted to checking Tesla scales in Europe daily in inventory. Dude, if you guys are not following, no, sales, not scales. If you guys are not following Karav over on Twitter, if you guys are over there, definitely do. Brilliant kid, and he has been putting out some banging charts lately. Oh my, like he puts mine to shame. He's so good at them. Definitely check out his stuff over there. Willie, I'm in Oklahoma for now. We can do a gig of SpaceX run. Oh, absolutely. I would love that. I want to go to SpaceX. I want to see a launch. That's another place I will definitely be going to is to see a launch. I've never seen one, never in person. Obviously, I've watched them on YouTube and stuff, but yeah, I would love that. Yep, and Norway's sales are through the roof. So that's one of the things we were talking about before. European sales skyrocketing. Norway's still going up. Norway's already at a record, and we still have more time to go in the month. Let's see. F-150 sold about 1 million per year. Cybertruck can do that as well. I think they can. I think it's going to end up coming down. Can they actually produce that many that quickly? Not to say that they can't, but I want to see it actually happen. I do think that the Model Y is going to end up this year. I think it's going to end up happening. I think they're going to end up breaking the record for best selling vehicle in the world. And if it doesn't happen this year, definitely going to happen next year. Uh, da, 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 my hopes are that the Cybertruck is designed specifically for mass production and ramp will be like we have never seen before, guessing 500,000 in 2024. That would be outstanding. I would love to see that. I'm always on the conservative side of the mindset. I know Elon shoots for the moon. I think that's phenomenal. And, sometimes he comes up short with some things, but I think that if he didn't operate the way he did, Tesla would not be performing as well as they do. Even if they fall short, they're still significantly better off than if they didn't shoot for what they were aiming for. So I would love to see 500,000. We'll just have to wait and see if that actually plays out. Cybertruck will be big in Australia, parts of Africa, and China too. Anywhere the dirt roads addressable market will be bigger than most think. That's a good point. Now, I haven't been to Australia in over 20 years. When I was there, most of the vehicles that were trucks, just because fuel prices were expensive back then, they were like El Camino type vehicles. I think it was like a Ford Falcon was down there as well. So all of that style vehicle, the only big trucks you saw were one of the ones that we rode in that was for one of our tours. So if anybody is from Australia now and can speak to that point, and how many sales you think you would see out there, like are trucks, bigger trucks, like an actual thing? Now I was only I was basically east coast of Australia. I didn't go anywhere on the west coast, and then Tasmania, and places like that where you needed to have four-wheel drive for some areas. So you guys can let me know on that one. His Twitter account name is Karav, just his name here. So Karav, just look him up. It's Tesla Karav right there if you want to find him. Karav, I've liked what Elon has done with Twitter so far, but making the For You page only verified accounts really disappoints me. It's just me, or have I seen no bots on my For You page? I actually haven't tried out the For You page. I understand what he's doing because from the AI perspective, he's going to have to protect it. Um, and Karav, are you not verified over there on Twitter? I'm curious. I actually haven't even paid attention because I just follow you all the time. I want to see the best tweets, not verified tweets. I know that's one of the tough ones, but it's one of those things, and it's hard. And I'm sure if Elon could, and it wasn't the way it was, he would keep it the way it was before and not have to pay for the verification. But to ensure people are humans, I don't know if there's any other way. If there's another way to do it, I'm sure he's open to suggestions, but sounds like that's just kind of the way it's got to go. Cybertruck would be a deal in Canada. Winter mode, oh, for Banff. Oh my gosh, yeah. And especially if the Cyber van is going to be built like the Cybertruck, oh, forget about it. Like the amount of people, like you'll see them all over Canada, Alaska, just loaded. Like the van life will be the Tesla van life. Cybertruck hood for Aussie, like Crocodile Dundee, carry wildlife. Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. That's a great way of putting it. Cybertruck's gonna be the Swiss Army knife of vehicles. I think I'd heard that before too. It's brilliant and totally true. All right, guys, been an hour now. I'm gonna be getting off. I'm gonna go hop into bed and get some sleep for the night. Great chat as always. Love this. I think what I'm gonna end up doing is going back to my Tuesday and Friday night live streams because some of you guys had mentioned that you like the shorter videos, and I still want to put some of those out as well. Kind of appeal to all of you guys, and then we can have these night chats on Tuesdays and Fridays. So if I do a live stream another time, I'll let you know. Otherwise, we'll be seeing some videos. Tomorrow night, I've got my kids, so not sure if I'll get one out tomorrow night, but either way, I will see you guys on Thursday. If I don't see you tomorrow, you guys are awesome. We'll see you later.